Hello and welcome to another program. And today, I'm going to share with you a new series. I'm starting a new series, and it's going to be the basis of a book that I am currently going to be doing. I'm going to be doing videos, and then I'm going to be doing a book from the videos that will actually be called The Parent's Playbook. And the Parent's Playbook is going to help parents to know how to raise children. There's lots of problems in our world today with parents not knowing how to raise their children. And one of the problems is that parents just don't know that if they have unresolved emotional pain, that they are going to cause their children not to be able to trust them, and because they're going to have problems with triggers, they're going to have problems with different things that the children will not be able to trust them on. And if a child can't trust their parent, they're not going to be able to develop a relationship with their parent, and that's going to cause them serious problems in later life. So what we're going to look at today is an overview. I'm giving you an overview of the Parent's Playbook. I'm going to be talking briefly about an overview that's going to help you to understand what some of the problems are. And then in later weeks, I'm going to be able to talk to you about what the solutions are. I wouldn't want to share with you problems without solutions. There are solutions to these problems. When I was a pastor at my church for 12 years, I actually developed a course that really talked about how parents could raise their children differently. And so now I'm taking the wisdom that God's given me since that time, adding to it a lot of more study and a lot more understanding and wisdom and knowledge, so that you will have a better opportunity to raise emotionally healthy children. That's the objective. That's what I want to see, because I'm going to share with you a little bit later what happened to me, but I don't want what happened to me and the horrible hell that I lived in to be what happens to you and your family, what happens to you, or what that you end up creating in your children the same problem that I had. And I don't want that. And so that's why I'm doing this video series, and that's why I'm doing the book. And it's going to be, I think, a book that will literally revolutionize the way that parents raise their children. But before I do that, I want to talk to you just briefly about this book. This book is the key. The key is going to be the foundation of all the books, the 7 books I'm writing, but it's the foundation certainly for this book. Brain science and the understanding of the key is really going to be the foundation for understanding how to be the best parents you can be, how to raise children that are going to be emotionally healthy. And so you can get this book on Amazon. You can also come to my website, Relationships Revealed. This book is being written under the umbrella, and the videos are being done under the umbrella of Relationships Revealed. You can go to relationshipsrevealed.org. You can read about the other books I'm writing. You can read about how Relationships Revealed came about, and then scroll down and you'll be able to buy the key from Amazon. You'll be able to buy the key from Amazon. And this key is going to be really helpful to you, because it's going to help you to understand some of the, I put it in language that you can understand of brain science and why we do what we do. And it's going to be very important for parents to get this book, because it's going to be the foundation of everything that I talk to you about raising children. Because if you don't have emotionally healthy parents, you're not going to have emotionally healthy children. That's what happens. So the other thing you can do is you can come to my YouTube channel, Relationships Revealed, or Relationships Revealed by Pastor Frank Lewis. And you're going to be able to view the videos I did on marriage, but now I'm doing the videos for parents. And you'll be able to go through and go back and listen to them, take notes, and really want to look at those videos as they come out. And so we're going to get back in and delve right back into the whole situation of why it's so hard to be parents. And you may have asked yourself the question, you may have wondered why raising children is so very, very hard. It seems that, and another question you might ask is that you may have thought, I'm doing the best I can, but it's not working. I know you've thought that. If you have been a parent for any period of time, you've thought that. I thought that with my first wife. I've been married twice, so I'm an expert on what not to do for marriage, but I'm also an expert on what not to do to raise children. Although my children, by the grace of God, are, pretty squared away. And that's only by His grace, because I didn't know what I was doing, and you probably don't know what you're doing. And so you're asking the question, what's happening to my children? And a lot of parents are asking today, as we look across the landscape of what's happening with children, what in the world has gone wrong? Why are they leaving, believing in God? Why are they not going to church? Why are they, doing sex, drugs, and alcohol? And worse yet, why is there such gender misidentification, such gender problems with gender, to the point where children are actually having surgeries that are mutilating the parts of them that cause them to be a woman or a man, a young man or a young woman. It's just crazy. But the devil is very real. He walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. And I will answer these questions. I will answer the questions that I've just asked you in the weeks ahead. I'm going to be getting into and building a foundation of understanding so that you're going to know things you've never heard before, things you've never considered before. But I want you to know the devil is walking around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. That comes from 1 Peter. Let me look it up here. 1 Peter, it comes from 1 Peter. And so we'll just leave it at that. But he's seeking to devour prey. And you know what? Your children are his prey. And the reason why is because children are totally dependent. Your children are totally dependent. That baby was dependent in the womb for sustenance, for life-giving nourishment, and everything was provided in the womb. But here's the problem. When the baby's born, now they're totally 100% dependent upon you to be able to meet their needs in a timely fashion. That's why they cry. So the devil wants to cause you problems with not making sure that your baby doesn't trust you because you are not meeting that baby's needs in a timely fashion. What do I mean by a timely fashion? Baby cries, you jump out of bed, you get the baby. And it's much better to breastfeed than it is to bottle. If you have to bottle, you have to bottle, but it's much better to breastfeed. Why? God gave women breasts right next to the heart, so the baby would be soothed by eating and soothed by the heartbeat of the mother. It's really, really important to breastfeed. So if you absolutely can, do it. For sure, you're going to get antibodies into your baby, and it's just going to be so much better. But more importantly, you're going to have a more emotionally stable baby. So that baby on the breast is going to hear the heartbeat of the mother, and that's going to be very soothing and very, very beneficial to the baby. But what happens if you roll over and don't hear the baby? You're not listening. You're not attuning to the baby's needs. Well, then that baby's not going to be able to trust. And if that baby can't trust, then what's going to happen is you're going to not be able to develop an emotional connection with the baby who becomes a toddler, who becomes an infant, becomes a toddler, and becomes a young child. Not going to be able to do it. And that baby is going to have trust issues for the rest of their lives. And I don't think you want that. I know that now that I understand it, I don't think any parents want that. But see, if you don't understand how important it is to be timely, not only timely, but be glad to see your baby who's crying. You don't try to shush the baby up. You simply meet the need. You meet the need, the baby will be comforted, and you take them to your breast once again or on your chest, if it's a father, and what happens is that baby will go to comfort. Here's the problem. If you let that baby cry long enough, the baby will give up. And that's what they did a study of Yugoslavian children, and what ended up happening is they had been crying and they had given up, and because nobody came to meet their needs until way later, and because there was too many babies and the nurses just couldn't get it done, and the babies actually gave up. And see, they're ready to die then. They believe that if they don't get their needs met, they're going to die. That's what psychologists and behavioral scientists tell us. So it's very, very important that you build this trust relationship. You have been given by God an opportunity to build trust with your baby like God builds trust with you when you become a born-again baby. How does God do that? He meets your needs. You ever wonder why? I've been a Christian for over 40 plus years. I don't get my needs met as quickly as I did when I was a brand new Christian. You may be a brand new Christian. You're saying, wow, God's like a butler. He just meets my needs. He does all this for me. Well, after a while, you know what? He's not going to meet your needs quite as rapidly. Because why? He wants you to grow. Well, in the process of having this relationship with your child, you must meet that child's needs with a smile on your face, glad to see your baby and to meet their needs. Really glad, no matter whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning or not. Now, I know, if you didn't and couldn't do that, I don't want you to be condemned. There's no condemnation. One of the things that is going to be very real is that we're going to have solutions. I'm going to give you solutions for what happens when things go wrong. Because the devil will make sure things go wrong. He'll make sure that you get sick and you can't breastfeed your baby. He'll make sure that, because he's the God of this world, he'll make sure that you don't build trust with your baby. Because if you can't build trust with your baby, you won't have trust with your toddler, and then you won't be able to have emotional connection or attachment, and that's a bad thing. That's a very bad thing. You don't want that to happen because that causes attachment pain, and I'll talk about that next week. But the reality to this is you want that to happen for your baby. That's very, very, very important. But now your baby's growing up. Now your baby's becoming a toddler. Now your baby's an infant, and in the first 9 months, they need to build this trust. If they don't build it, well, then their baby's not going to be able to trust. So that's a problem. And now what's going to happen is the baby's going to become a toddler, start walking around, things are going to start happening, and what's going to happen now? Well, Satan, as the god of this world, seeking whom he may devour, is going to cause you, if you have unresolved emotional pain, to trigger, have emotional upset with your toddler or with your small child. Why is that going to happen? Because they're going to do something that's going to trigger you. Satan will make sure of it because you have unresolved emotional pain. Do you remember? Well, if you don't, then go back and look at the videos on marriage. You can't have a great marriage unless your pain, your unresolved emotional pain is healed. Well, you can't be a great parent or even raise godly kids if you have unresolved emotional pain. It's just not going to work. It's not going to work because you're going to trigger, you're going to cause your children pain, and then they couldn't trust you before, now they can trust you less. And what's going to happen is Satan is going to reinforce the belief that they have, that they're not valuable, important, and worthy, false beliefs, but he's going to reinforce those. You're not valuable enough for your parents to take care of you. You're not valuable because they treat you the way they do. They bring you pain. It can be physical pain, it can be emotional pain, it can be, God forbid, sexual pain, it can be neglect. It can be any one of these. An emotionally unavailable parent will cause pain to their children. So if you're not healed, don't have kids would be a very good thing to think about. But if you have kids and you're not healed, then please get the book and look at all these videos, and you're going to be finding out at least what the problem is. And I do give solutions in the last series of videos, and I will give you solutions on these too. For people that are, have children that didn't raise them by building trust, and now they've got real problems with their children. They're wondering why their children are having temper tantrums. They're wondering why their children are shut down and moody and all these other things. It's all a result of not being able to trust mom and dad. So that's one. The other one that's going to happen is you're not going to be able to bond with your child. If you can't bond with your child, then, and what do I mean by bond? I mean you have built that trust relationship. If you can't bond and have that trust, bonding equals trust. It's like gluing a relationship together. You take two pieces of wood, you put bonding glue in between them, and you put them together, they're bonded. They can't be torn apart very easily. Well, if that never happened with your child, then what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to attach to them or have an emotional connection. They will not be able to develop emotionally well. They will have arrested development, and that will cause them to stay stuck as an infant, even as an adult, and that will keep them to stay stuck as a child, even as an adult, and they won't have a good life. Just like you didn't have a good life. Because why? Because you're stuck at the infant level or the child level, never got to the adult level, but you had kids. Now, what's so interesting about this is that, what's amazing is that in order to drive a car, you've got to pass a test. You've got to pass a written test, and you've got to pass a driving test in order to drive a car. Many people, they will go ahead and have premarital counseling. They'll want to find out what are the problems we're likely to have when we get married. So they do premarital counseling. Think about this. This probably happened to you. I know it happened in my life. You make great preparation for the baby, the new baby that's coming. You get a room set aside, you get the bassinet, you get all the stuff, you have your, baby shower, and get all this stuff for the baby, right? Yes, that's what happens. And even you get prepared to birth the baby by going to classes that will help you to have maybe a natural childbirth. Will help you to be able to maybe not use drugs, epidural and all that. You do all that, but you never really thought about getting emotionally healed before you had your baby. Oops, that's a big problem. That's a big problem because God has assigned to parents a assignment that is very, very important, so important that he said, parents, don't provoke your children. Don't cause them to be angry. Don't cause them to be sad. Don't cause them to feel pain. That's in Proverbs. So that's an assignment. Now, he also gave us an assignment, all human beings an assignment, and that was to take dominion and have lots of kids, or to have generations of children, okay? The devil's trying to kill, steal, and destroy with abortion and other things like that, right? So that there aren't new children coming. But the reality to it is even if there are children coming, let's raise them with better than we're doing now, because we're not doing very well. You may not be doing very well. So that's why I'm doing this. This is the whole reason I'm doing this. So you got to take a test, you got to do all this stuff, but the most important single thing you can do is get emotionally healed. That's the single most important thing you can do, because when you're emotionally healed, you're going to be able to bring to that child a very much more like God frame of reference. God does what? He is a great parent. He's the great example of a good father. He doesn't do things. He doesn't trigger. He doesn't do things. Okay? Well, if you get emotionally healed, you won't trigger. If you get emotionally healed, you'll be out of the infant level and out of the child level, and you'll be more at the adult level. And so you can then be closer to being at the parent level, so you can take care of your child in a way that your child desperately needs. Because I'm going to talk to you in the weeks ahead, what happens if your child doesn't get what they need and what the results will be. And it's very, very hard for any child who has not been raised properly in a emotionally healthy to be able to even have a decent life. It's really, really hard. So this is what we're looking at. We're going to be looking across the whole parenting landscape, if you will, for ways that God has shown me and the ways that I've researched and looked into to be able to raise children so that they are trusting. See, if they can't trust you, they can't trust any authority. If they can't trust any authority, they're not going to be able to trust God. And that's the problem. If they can't trust God, who are they going to trust? Who are you trusting? Yourself. They're going to trust themselves. And if they trust themselves, then what's going to happen? They're going to have fear of loss of control. They're going to need predictability and certainty. And they may even grow up, because you were a perfectionist, they grow up being perfectionistic. And that's the ultimate form of control. So control is just an illusion, though. That's the problem. Control is an illusion. It's not, nobody really has any control. Satan is the god of this world, so what does he do? He puts children in a position where they're reinforced over and over and over again. That's what happened to me. I was raised in a way that my father abused me, and for years, physically and psychologically, and what ended up happening by the age of 12, I hated myself. I had no value, no worth, and no importance because of the way I was treated. And he ended up treating me in such a horrible way that I, like I said, hated myself, but I felt I was totally defective. Well, I was so insecure, and so what did I do? I married a woman that made me feel more secure because of how she looked and how smart she was and all these other things. And what ended up happening is I then ended up having problems with my kids. Why? Because that's what happens. We keep repeating this cycle over and over and over again. And I'm tired of it. I'm frankly very, very upset about it. I really want to see parents learn how to be able to raise emotionally healthy kids so that they can have a great life. They can have the abundant life that Jesus promised. John 10:10, he said, I came to give you life and life more abundantly. That's not going to happen unless we can get the parents into a position where they can be emotionally healed. They can come up to the parent level. They're not infants. They're not children. They are treating their children well. They're learning how to listen and reflect back to their children and go ahead and say to them that they're valuable and important and worthy. And so, that's what needs to happen. But that didn't happen for you, and it certainly didn't happen for me. I do 5 groups a week because the need is so great, helping people to heal. And what happens is I've never found anybody that their parents listened to them and they reflected back to them and they validated them. That didn't happen. And they certainly didn't get affirmed. So we've got to have changes. And that's the overview that I'm putting together, that I've done for you today. And I want you to know that our Father, who is in heaven, is going to help us in this series to have, and I'm going to help you to have heaven on earth, not just in marriage, but in parenting. Heaven on earth families. Heaven on earth because God is so good and he wants us to have a good life. And so I'm going to help you to have to raise children that are emotionally healthy. They will be able to trust you and God, and they will have the best life they can possibly have. Because why? Because you did the work. You got emotionally healed, and you learned how important it is to raise children properly so they can have a great life, the abundant life that Jesus promised in John 10:10.